Welcome to the EMN podcast, where philosophy meets disaster and uncomfortable truths meet the profession we call emergency management. This is not safe space thinking. This is the arena. Let's begin. Good morning, good afternoon, depending where you are in this fine nation. And Andrew, do you know why I'm wearing this cap?
Yeah, sure. Tell us.
Because we're talking about football in the sense of the European model of football, and or I guess the world's model of football compared to the American model of football. But as the world makes fun of us for calling it soccer, I do have a bit of trivia of why it's called soccer.
I think I know, but please go ahead. Tell us.
So, soccer was actually created by the English. And what it was back in the day, I think it was Oxford, the students there would, and they shortened everything, like we like to do acronyms. And then the Oxford students, for whatever reason, had this habit of putting at the end of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so the association was turned into SOC as an abbreviation. And then they had at the end to create soccer, exported it to Canada, Australia, and the United States. And we already had football playing over here. We were starting to use that term. And then when the rest of the world went back to the world football, Canada, the United States, and Australia kept soccer. And that is how we got soccer. So for all you snooty British people and the rest of the world that's making fun of us for calling it soccer, is actually created by the British. So I just want to lay that out there. That's the trivia that I know about.
I didn't realize that the Canadians also use soccer. So, and it's I think even more egregious in the lives of the British because in principle they never left the British Empire, so to speak.
That might be true. So I don't know if the Canadians still use soccer, but that's what the information I received said. So they may have already moved over to football, but who knows? Football, soccer, whatever it is. I just was knee deep, not even knee deep, like neck deep into it for the last year, learning more about the sport than I ever thought I want to learn. Mm-hmm. And I did indeed enjoy watching some of the matches, most of the matches. So that's what I've been doing. How about you? Have you enjoyed any World Cup stuff?
I have, actually. It's been a great tournament so far. Incredible playing, incredible games. And I'm looking now to watching the semifinals here and then the actual final match coming up. So I think it'll be even more exciting at this point. So, yeah. And the other part of this is that, as we've said so far, and we hope it continues, there hasn't been any major interruptions. The games have been proceeding, I think, smoothly. So, yes, knock wood here. And we did our episode a couple of months ago where we did our pre-event or pre-FIFA discussion and talked about preparations. Now, as Los Angeles Stadium can return to its previous name of SoFi Stadium. Are there games that are going to be played anymore? Any other types of games that are scheduled? So this is done. Your mission's done at this point.
I am done, sir. I am taking a break. I was activated for, well, I mean, if you include the stuff where I got to go home, realistically using about a month and a half. Mm-hmm. But we did 34 days straight as an activation, official activation, 34 days straight in the JTOC. And it was an amazing transformation to see from day one of the activation to when we closed up shop on Saturday. The teamwork that came out of there, and I wrote a piece, a little tiny little thank you to my planning section. So I was the planning section chief for the tournament, And I tell you, I got to work with some of the greatest emergency management professionals in the land. And I mean, I know everybody's good at what they do, and to see the people that came through um, from all over the county and some places the nation uh, to participate in what we're doing and planning this thing. And when I mean this, I'm not talking about just the people in the room that I sat with.
Sure.
We were coordinating calls between from Massachusetts, to Seattle, Ken up there in Seattle. I want to say thank you for being my sounding board when I had questions and ideas, and was learning from what they had, the teams that were playing up there. Jesse over in Miami, a good friend of mine down there that I went to the executive academy with, talking to him and texting during meetings to say, hey, what are you guys doing, to getting real-time data and information on things that are happening to people who I haven't met in person from, Atlanta and Kansas City and Dallas and Houston, and to my friends that are, in I guess they're calling it the Bay Area Stadium, right? To Santa Clara. It was such a truly was a national coordinating event. Boston, New Jersey, New York, New Jersey State Troopers. I want to put it out there that they led the coordination calls between all of the host cities. Couldn't have done it without them. I mean, they actually stepped up. Congratulations in New Jersey. I know you guys are still out there doing stuff.
New Jersey.
Yeah. I when I say I've worked with the greatest professionals in emergency management from across the nation, I truly do mean that. And my team, we started off as, now I wouldn't say strangers. We all knew each other in some form or fashion, but we hadn't sat in the same room for 34 days straight. And you really went from being people who you knew, people that you collaborated with sometimes, to realistically at the end, everybody's given, hugs and on their way home out of that 34-day activation. And it was just a great experience around there. Mm-hmm.
We had a session where we talked about, again, the preparations. Now that we're looking back at what was essentially a 4-year planning cycle for this major series of events that have taken place throughout North America, more specifically, right, for your city of Englewood and Los Angeles Stadium, which specific planning assumptions proved to be the most accurate, and which ones do you think really failed to account for the tournament exposure that eventually were revealed?
I don't want to say that everything that we talked about came true, but a lot of what we were thinking, and because we're lessons learned from the other tournaments, we did have experienced World Cup experts that were at the other games that we talked to and learned from. What I think is interesting on our part is we had a lot of people. We weren't going to have parking at the stadium, and I know they made some changes on that, but it was very expensive. I think in two ways. One is because it could be expensive. I mean, because it's prime parking, right? I want to say it's close to $300 to park at the stadium. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that, but it's somewhere around there, because I heard people just talking about it. Right, this is all just chatter. I didn't check for myself, and I know people and some people from around the city are opening up their parking lots for parking and charging. I know it was a story on one of the local news channels here that's where I heard we're talking about the price of parking. But that being said, we did have parking that was less expensive outside of the stadium area where people could take public transportation. That was, we were working directly with Metro on that. The numbers were fluctuated. Some days were lower than others. Not sure why that is, but I know they hit their mark as far as what they thought what the transportation was going to be. But sometimes it was, some days were lower, some days were higher on the the fan behavior was one of those things that we took a lot of time, intelligence reports on those to see, what teams had what fans. We did have some counter protests, or I should say counter protests. We did some protests and counter protests for various different issues. None of them really turned out to be anything. We thought that was going to be one of our plan assumptions, that we were going to, because of the permit that was taken out, they were going to have like 20,000 people show up to a protest, and I think the top that they had was 1,000. Still, a good amount of people that you have to deal with, I guess, for lack of a better term, but it wasn't as large as we expected. The fan marches was one of the ones that we were really didn't know what to expect. None of them had a problem. They told us what they're doing. They met. They were having a good time. A lot of alcohol was flowing for sure early. God bless them. And then they marched into the stadium. The United States fans, they were amazing fan march, close to 5,000 fans marching. That was a great sight to see. The Bosnian team they had an amazing march. We started calling it the Bosnian bounce because they would stop and it looked like they just all bounced together. I did not get to experience, which I really was kind of sad about. I know Kansas City had some really fun with the Dutch team, and I would have loved to have seen that live. But some of the videos I've seen, that was just amazing. But the fan marches, no problems, zero problems. The fan behavior, some of we expected. Possible, fights in the crowds and stuff like this. None of it happened, which is good. I don't believe we had any arrests in the stadium. So that's a good thing. We had one arrest outside the stadium for ours, and that had nothing to do with the game, to be honest with you. It was really a silly arrest at that. It was more so because somebody was pushing the issue. I think in the real world that probably would not have happened, but it was just two people that were arguing, and so there was that. And then I'll tell you that some of my concerns that we had going into it, in a good way, ended up being nothing came true as far as some of the concerns and worst case scenario. How we think, right? We think worst case scenario. Of course. And I would say through this entire thing, it was the best case scenario in each and every moment. I can't speak for all the stadiums. I'm just talking only for what was happening, in my area of responsibility. But it was a lot of people having fun. The safest games that have been played since or before us. There's other issues in other countries. We didn't have any of those problems. We had people coming from all over the world, literally, to the United States. I think, as I will say this, and there's no hyperbole with this one. This has truly been an experience that the world got to see the best of who we are as a nation. I know that some people hear stuff on the news and stuff in their countries that doesn't make the United States look great. It's mostly, and as I say, we probably have the same issues here when we see some of the world. The news has to sell newspapers, and so they do what they do. But once you get to this country, and everybody who I spoke to that come to visit had a positive view of what America truly has to offer. And so I'm proud of that, and proud of all my partners throughout this country, and also Canada and Mexico as well, that had a really wonderful tournament. And so North America, you guys shined. So congratulations on that.
So with live incidents, there's a lot of social media engagement. I mean, of course, not just, within the parameters of what we're used to seeing on our channels, but right, you've got all these multiple languages, different social media channels, etc. How did that, chain of command and monitoring hold up against, potential rapid spread of misinformation improvements? Because that wasn't something I was on my radar. I was focused on looking at the games. I wasn't. Maybe every once in a while I'd go on social media to look at what people were posting about specific, red card calls and things like that. But I was looking at the things that were dangerous. How did that work effectively?
So we had a whole team, and I can get to a little bit of it. We had a whole team that was up in the Joint Information Center, ran by Crystal McGlover, who did a wonderful job, and Soraya Sutherland as well. The two of them put together the plan. It was a great plan. They knocked it out of the park as far as what they were doing up on the. When I say it was a team, we would activate the JIC along with the JTOC at a level 1, and you're talking 35 public information professionals.
Mm-hmm.
From federal, state, local, private sector partners in that room, looking at all the different posts and whatnot that were happening. We did have a couple of interesting posts that could be concerning, and we had Secret Service and an FBI in the room taking a look at those things, and they were unfounded. But they, people say things that are they're being naughty, and we have to go check them out. But none of it was founded. This one was a known person to one of the jurisdictions that would do those things. He was a known swatter, as they called him. So but there's and that wasn't just us. When we would hear this information from, like I said, our other partners throughout the country, and kind of put things, just bounce things off of each other. So that's also, but they did a great job. Hats off to the JIC team as well. The Joint Information Center did their job, and Crystal and Soraya, you guys did a great job putting that together.
So if I understand correctly, I mean, you had tight integration across the different events, but this is a global event. Everyone's viewing it, right? Or there's many people viewing it in different parts of the world, different parts of the country. So we're able to lock in on one place to be able to bring that jurisdiction and to coordinate and address issues as they come up. It's not just, okay, we're only within our little bubble within the Los Angeles area. Is that correct?
No, not at all. Yeah. No, I mean, that was our area of responsibility, but we would, you got to mind you, when we talked about the JTOC, the Joint Tournament Operations Center, right? We had FBI, CISA, THS, all the local jurisdictions that were impacted in there as well, sitting shoulder to shoulder, working together on these things. And when information came out that was, potential harmful information or whatever, say a bomb threat, right? And we took all those seriously, right? And I mean, we would run the dogs through the area. It wasn't like we just, some guy, running his mouth. We took it all 100%. So that coordinate, but then would come out to say, okay, yeah, this is what we found out. And, this guy's over at this particular place, and, they have a profile on him, and we're able to put it to bed pretty quickly, and that was, again, it's all about the relationship. It's, of being able to pick up that phone. So, when we had an issue going on in one part of the country, and, we're on the phone with the other people in the other part of the country saying, hey, are you hearing the same thing? What are you getting out of this? The Iranian threat, what I mean by the Iranian, I know not the Iranians were a threat, but the Iranian threat was, we had counter protesters or protesters, right? And even with that, knowing that they were leaving us going to Seattle, we got on the phone with the Seattle team, said this has been our experience. It's been people just doing their First Amendment protected speech. They we did have people waving flags. We had two different people with different flags, and they were waving it at each other. And at one point, the worst that happened was they started whacking each other with the flags, which was actually kind of silly to see. It was no one got hurt. They maybe got irritated with flags being put in their face, but that was like the worst case scenario, and we were able to separate the parties and put them on opposite sides of the street, and no one was injured or affected negatively, outside of the people whacking each other with flags. When I say whacking, not with the poles, but with the flags themselves. It was this kind of, to watch that on video was kind of humorous. I'm sure get a flag whacked in your face wasn't too funny for them, but that was the worst, right? If that's the worst, I'll take that, right? No one. So we told people in Seattle, saying, "Hey, Ken, this is what our experience was." And they were very respectful of law enforcement. When law enforcement told them to behave themselves, they behaved themselves. So and that was the worst. And put in air quotes. The worst Iranian threat was that. And,
sure.
And then I'll say the team. They were very respectful of everything, and at the end, they left. If you could look at ESPN, has a story on it. They left a wonderful note in the LA locker room, just thanking us for the being gracious hosts. And so, I say, when you take a look at sport in general, when the spirit of the Olympics, the spirit of the World Cup, the spirit of international competitive sports is always, cuts through the politics of things, and it makes me proud to be part of that.
I want to talk about staffing and fatigue management. This is kind of an unusual situation because I'm interviewing you as a person you were usually interviewing someone else. I've also been in the interviewee seat here. For staffing and fatigue management, and for a long-term, for an series of events like this, where you have prolonged deployment, what's the evidence now that the staffing model worked effectively and that you prevented at least some element of burnout? I realize that it is tiring. Some of these games were taking place late in the night, midnight, at least midnight our time. I don't know, was it midnight, maybe your time, but late at night. And so, you're still monitoring things, even if it might be another event happening in another part of the country, you're still watching what's going on and monitoring the situation. Because it doesn't just start and stop at the game time. It starts well before and after what's going on, right? And all that traffic flow, etc.
Let me first answer the staffing issue. So we would ebb and flow our staffing levels due to what the game was. So we were game day -1. We would go to level 1, game day level 1, and then the day after the game, we'd go down to a level 2 activation. So we're able to get people out of the EOC or the JTOC to home, to back to their own jurisdictions to be able to rest. There's a few of us that didn't have that the ability to go home. I was one of them. But you know what? Sometimes we do have to go through. But I was gonna say, do have to go through the just suck it up a little bit and but the nice thing is I stayed locally down there, so I didn't have to drive. I live about an hour from where I work. I didn't have to drive the hour drive every day, and that made life a lot easier for those of us that were able to stay locally. Did I miss my family? Yeah, I did. I got to talk to them. But I mean, there's that's like any other deployment, right? And as a guy in YouTube, Andrew, you know what it's like to when you go to those long-term deployments whether it's a week or 2 weeks, they take that into consideration. But
Mm-hmm.
we were able to step out and have those conversations with our loved ones and talk to them in the evening, and so we had to take that, and we had mental checks on each other. It was always nice to. One point, I have dry eye, right, and so I have my eye drops by my computer, and one day during the game, I had to put my eye drops in, and I had my eyes closed, and I was, just because I was letting the gel do its thing, and the one of the fire chiefs came over and he's put his hand on my shoulder. He goes, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah." I start laughing. I go, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm just putting the gels on. I'm putting the eye drops on my eye." And but the nice thing is that he recognized, saw something that didn't look right, put his hand on my shoulder, and was making sure I was okay. And I was very appreciative of that. And that was, we were looking out for each other. And that's what we did in that, and giving breaks and being able to go. And we, this sounds silly, but I know we took some pictures of it. Was on LinkedIn, where we had a refrigerator is always full of drinks, right? All sorts of drinks. We asked people what they wanted, and we had snacks, and I put a list out. Said, okay, make a list of, find out what people want for snacks, and so on the list of snacks that were requested was two things. One was pudding, that was kind of interesting, and the other one was on Uncrustables. And my boss Brian Walker, love him to death. He's just like, I draw the line at pudding, and I'm like, so we got Uncrustables, but we didn't get the pudding that was requested. But the Uncrustables, this child snack, for parents who know what Uncrustables are. It's this frozen little bread thing with peanut butter jelly in it, no crust on it. We were joking that we need to come up with a new brand called Crustables, which is all the crust that's left over from Uncrustables, and sell them as a snack. But anyway, so the Uncrustables, and man, those things were like a hit. Like, see these adults just like going crazy over these this child snack was fun. But so we made it fun. We had snacks for everybody. We went through tons of snacks, more snacks than I ever thought that people could eat in a lifetime. But it was done. But that snack room was really that place that kept the morale up during times when it was slow and tedious, and people would, and then it was good, and then we had a lot of fun. We made the culture of the JTOC was that of, I don't want to go as far as saying family, but sure, that's the word I'll use. We laughed a lot because, like I said, no one was dying, no one was getting hurt. We're watching a soccer tournament right at the end of the day, or football if we want to go that way, and so we were able to laugh, and we made it light. When it got serious a couple times, we got serious, but when it was light, we were able to be light. And I think that was part of how we were able to get through 34 days and still, like each other at the end of it.
For those folks who are interested, I know you posted on social media a number of pics of folks who came through the EOC at various times. So I'd encourage people to catch those, because they may be a little bit more famous in the Los Angeles region, so to speak, or that area. But
I mean,
maybe there were other folks that might. So.
Yeah, I mean, we had the Secretary of Homeland Security come stop by on game day one, and a couple of Congress people came with him to see the JTOC and the operations, and very personable man. Again, I try to keep, all politics aside. This is not a political statement by any means, but I liked him. He laughed with us, and I was happy to meet him. We got to meet and all sorts of different dignitaries on different levels. Of course, our local people came in a few times. The sheriff, chief of LA City Police Department, of course, our chief for Inglewood, who we know well. Secret Service, the director of Secret Service came in, director of Homeland, of different branches of federal levels came in. My friend, who is now the congratulations, Carolyn, by the way, who's now the director of emergency management for Cal OES, stopped by. It's great to see her. Her and I were classmates at the Executive Academy, and we had a couple other large on the state side. Some of the upper management, came and worked a couple of shifts with us. So it was an open door. Of course, we had local dignitaries come in, our city council stuff. So that's one thing that you have to understand too, is when you have these rooms opened up, and I'm sure New Jersey, and I'm sure I know that Secretary of Homeland Security visited, I think, everybody, I believe, or at least the majority of the joint tournament. Well, they weren't all called JTOCs, but the tournament operation centers across the country. I think he hit them all. But just to kind of understand that when you have these large events, you're going to have those dignitaries come, and you have to plan for that. So we did have we planned, and so they came in, checked in at the JIC. We had a couple people from the JIC escort them around, show them around, bring them to the JTOC. Did some photo op stuff with them, and then they were kind of out. It was good. I didn't have a negative experience with any of the matter of fact, everybody's very appreciative of what we're doing, and so I think that was positive. But again, lessons learned. We knew this going in. This was going to occur, or the potential. I don't know why that happened. Put my own thumbs up. Plan for it. Have a plan. Understand that you're going to have dignitaries come in, that they need to be, and have them escorted. Their team, they had an advanced team that came in. Is it disruptive a little bit? It was funny, and this is kind of a great story. So the Secretary of Homeland Security is there, and he's given his speech, but there's still work to be done. And Dave Ashman, who he's awesome, in the middle of this Secretary of Homeland Security doing his thing, Dave's on the phone. The phone rings, he's picking up the phone, he's doing work, and then Secretary Mullins, he goes, "Well, the only person in this room is working right now is Dave." I was like, absolutely, yeah. Everybody else is watching the secretary do his thing, and Dave's still working. So Dave got a shout out from Secretary of the great work that he was doing. So it was nice.
One last question here, because I realize we're coming up on time, is the nature of what we do is always based on continuous improvement, looking at what we did well, what we could improve upon. Have you conducted a hot wash? Are you in the process of scheduling out AARs, or have you done them already?
Well, we're going to have a formal AAR coming out here starting tomorrow as our process. We do have, didn't do a formal hot wash the way you think of it. We did electronically. So we asked everybody to fill out a survey at the end of their shift, their last shift, or if they had anything that they could see. So we have a lot of that data captured already. We'll formalize that. Like everything else, I will tell you that from day one of the activation to day 34, we improved. Although every shift, so we had small little interactions. I had for my team, I did a morning brief beginning each shift, and then at the end we had a little quick hot wash for our planning section. I don't know if everybody did that, in each section, but that's how we did it, and we were able to improve. We were able to improve our technology on the fly as well. We used DLAN, Buffalo Computer Graphics. Their team was embedded with us, and we made incremental changes to the software as we saw needs that it came about. So we didn't wait to the end to make changes. We ran into a small problem with our teams meetings, and I'm really not sure. Still to this day, I don't know why that happened the way it did, but we figured a workaround on it and was able to make it work. And so again, the first our first live meeting that we did was like, okay, I thought I had it down how it was going to work. It did not work the way I wanted to work. And then our team got together, just kind of put this in perspective of how we can do things on the fly. And we figured out how to make it work. And then I got some gappers tape and I put it on the floor. I put it on the floor of, okay, this is where you're standing for this. This is where you go. And then we put like a whole movement on how we were going to put people in front of the camera, when they're going to go in front of the camera, how it was being run. And just by doing that small little thing, by putting some cues on the floor, changed the feel and the look of the briefing. And it did it make it look so, well, it's professional. Let's make it look professional. It was professional, but it made the flow and the look, and it didn't look unorganized by any means. And I had a chief that one time told me, he goes, and this probably heard this a bazillion times, and it's for sure in the show business, right? What the people don't see on stage is a chaotic mess sometimes, but as long as you're showing when they're on stage, it looks great. No one knows the difference. And I'm butchering the way his is more simplified, and then it's the old adage of like, you see a duck floating on top of the water and he looks calm and controlled, and underneath his legs are spinning 100 miles an hour. And we had some of that going on, and our team was able to fix some stuff. And I want to give one last shout out before we end this process. So Carrie Speranza came out from Esri to help us set up some stuff on the Esri team. Team Esri was great as well. Most of you guys probably all in some way touched ArcGIS, man. And that team was wonderful. Carrie came out for the first couple of days just to kind of kick that and make sure it was going well. And she looks at me and she's just like, hey, do you have a battle rhythm set? And I'm like, damn, no. So we were okay, let's go in the other room. And so Matt Peterson from FEMA, Boz Devlia from IOEM, myself, Dave Ashburn, who I spoke about earlier, and Carrie kind of went into the other room and set a battle rhythm for the month. And that was probably the biggest lesson learned is have that battle rhythm, know what you want to do. We got it set up on that first day, started following that battle rhythm, and said, okay, and then put that into action. And that really set the tone for the entire time we were there. And it was well worth the time. So Carrie, again, more power to you.
Well, thanks for sharing your experience with the World Cup. And I'm sure that there's going to be more to come. We have more games that are coming up, even though Los Angeles Stadium is no longer a venue for the games. I know up the road for me in New Jersey, New York Stadium will be hosting one of the semifinal games. So we're already past the quarterfinals. We're in the semifinals, and now we'll be hosting the final game, the overall championship. So that'll be exciting. And we have a lot of more good things coming up. Now that you're back in the arena again.
Back in the arena, I loved it. I missed it. I missed you guys. Hope you guys still remember that we're out here, and look forward to doing more stuff. And if you ever have opportunity, we have some things coming up. Obviously, I have the Super Bowl coming up here in February of 2027, and then 2028. Obviously, we have the Olympics that are hitting. The Olympics, that's going to be a larger footprint than you thought, especially when it comes to soccer or football. It is going to be a national sport again, with the finals being played in Pasadena. So you guys may have opportunities to work the Olympics as well. If it comes to your plate, if you get tapped on the shoulder, embrace it, go with it. It's an amazing experience. I don't think that you'll ever, but it'll be one of those things, those career highlights that you have. So, Andrew, I'll give it to you to end.
Yeah. So, as we always say, every day is game day. And so we have to be prepared all the time. And so as you closed the FIFA World Cup games in Los Angeles Stadium, I want to applaud the work that you've done, and also, as you mentioned, the countless team members and folks that have been involved in this at a multitude of levels, regardless of whether they're in the EOC, security folks who are working, the front line, the folks who are, basically coordinating and providing support services, heat, event relief and things like that. I mean, it's thousands and thousands of people that make it work, across North America. So as we were talking about earlier, when you see things go through sort of smoothly without any major incident and that sort of thing, it's the work of so many folks that, tirelessly making it happen. So I think that to me is a sign of success.
Absolutely. And everybody, as always, stay safe.
When the sirens scream out loud, or the voice that breaks the cloud, heads out high when things go wrong, will guide you through its strength and song. Disaster strikes without a sound, chaos reigns but we're around. Public safety in our hands, steady strong in every land. Emergency